from MIT University, Noida. I feel pleasure to have an opportunity to introduce the eminent corporate guest of the day with blessings from visionary honorable founder president sir and respected chancellor sir and guidance from vice chancellor madam and our dean sir. We are organizing this guest lecture series, this web series. Today we have an opportunity to get insights from our esteemed corporate guest, Mr. Martin Tschitschke. He is going to deliver the lecture on the topic Internet of Things in medical, new possibilities for medical healthcare. One more thing I would like to say that we are very thankful to the company HealthPrex, a health tech company from Germany, their team, and obviously Miss Yojna Shahjain, head of HealthPrex, for their association with AICISM, that is MIT Institute of Competitive Intelligence and Strategic Management, MIT University, Noida. This is the third session being taken through HealthPrex. And before starting the session, I would like to introduce our guest to the students and all the respected listeners. Martin, yeah, Mr. Martin, he did a master's in computer science and business. He does have 6+ years of experience in product operation manager. He was product operation manager in Europe's largest online fashion retailer, Zalando, and he does have 1 year of experience as product manager in online startups, and about half years of experience as a senior product manager with health tech startup, that is HealthPrex. And he is a lifelong Berliner and blogger. Mr. Martin, you are most welcome to Amity University to be the part of this guest lecture series. Most welcome. Over to you, sir. Over to you.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, sir. What a great introduction you did for me. Everybody can see the first slide, then I'm going to start this. First of all, I'm very happy to be with you guys. Sirs, madams, misters, everything else. And we are, as a company, also very happy that we have the opportunity to give these sessions. So today, as mentioned already, I'm representing this startup HealthPrex, which I was joining beginning last summer. Sorry. And we are like a health tech innovation company, meaning that we are developing, based on the digital initiative of India, we are developing digital health tech healthcare products for doctors at this very moment, and trying to help to digitize the Indian healthcare setup. And we're using like the latest technology. Ms. Yoshina Jain founded this company together with her husband, who is like a very established, very esteemed engineer, also worked in Zalando. That is this company that I spent most of my career in. I'm going to talk about this in a second a little bit more. And yeah, we are trying to help hospitals and doctors in India to make their lives a little bit easier. We do have a vision, and that is very important if a new company is founded. So we started on this project about a year ago, and I joined a couple of months later than that, like at the beginning of summer, as I said. And very soon it became clear to us that we need a vision to establish where we want to go with this project, with this company, with this products we're going to build. So we developed this vision, and it is to become a trusted permanent healthcare organization and advancement of digital health domain. Very short, some important keywords there, and that's what we are trying to do. From this vision, we are going to do the mission part, and that means a little bit more concrete, digitizing healthcare setups in India and other emerging markets. So I'm, as Mr. Chairman said, I'm a lifelong Berliner. You could wonder now, like, how did I get involved in this? Because actually I never had the chance to go to India. I would love to. But yeah, Ms. Yoshina Jain came to India, is from India and came to Berlin. And she has a connection to an old good friend and colleague of mine, which is Dr. Anamika Datta, who gave the first presentation in the series. Maybe some of you had the chance to join it. And yeah, so that's why I got like the insight into this very interesting project, and also in the culture, which is always a pleasure, like learning about the food and everything, and the dances and the culture as a whole. So what's my agenda today? I hope I keep it short and concise. So we're gonna go have a little intro, which we basically already, I'm gonna show you on the next slide. And then we talked about health tracks a little bit. And then I'm gonna talk a little bit about the Internet of Medical Things is the official abbreviation of this topic that we're going about today, and what it means and by definition. And next step is then we talk about why is this relevant? Why is this an interesting technology to talk about? I'm gonna have collected a lot of details and facts in the next slides after that. And we're going to on the finishing line, starting with having a little outlook into the future, and also why is this even relevant to health practice? Why is this connected? Where are like touch points that we can connect to? Ending up on talking tiny little bit more about health packs and why it might be interesting to you to know about this company. And then I have a big round of questions where I hope I don't spend too much time on my slides, so we still have time with the questions. I hope you can take notes, and I'm happy to hear your questions after that. So this is the hello slide, meaning I'm going to talk about myself a little bit more for 1 second only, because most of it was already mentioned. So yeah, I was born in Berlin, actually in the East Berlin part. As you know, the city was divided until end of the 80s. And yeah, that gave me like a interesting insight into political systems, if you want to. And I always knew that I like wanted to do something with computers, or at least learn to understand how they work. And eventually I came to study what is called in Germany informatic or informatic, rightly pronounced. That means computer science, basically. And I did two studies. First, I studied a bachelor, and then later I continued after my first job a little bit later with a master's, and that was then a combination course of computer science and business science. Pretty much doing the studio studies already.
From UK. No, I think he's. I'm not
Hello?
sure. No,
Can
no,
you
no.
hear me?
I'm not sure.
Is there any issues?
Yeah,
Nikita,
I'm not sure. His name is Martin.
Yeah.
Nikita,
So
please.
he is from USA.
No, Berlin, Germany. Is it okay to continue, or do we wait for fixing an issue?
Somebody got unmuted, so I muted that person. It's fine, sir. Please go ahead.
Yeah,
Okay,
Mr. Martin, please
we
go
go ahead. Right, as I said, like I studied two courses, masters, and before that bachelor, learning about computers, and doing the second masters, not the second master, but the second studies, which was the master. I came into contact and joined one big job, first job that actually was the second job, but the first long-term employment with this company Zalando. It's been yeah, having its root basically in the Berlin startup scene, if you want, and it quickly developed during my time there. I think I joined 2014 and stayed until 2019. Is this 6 years? Yeah, this is about right. And it quickly developed into Europe's biggest online fashion retailer. They like an e-commerce company which sells you fashion and shoes online, and they have a lot of like different parts of it. And I switched from different teams, between different teams in the 6 years. I learned a lot, and I started out as a product management support. I did product operations also. Everything resolved around product. So eventually I got the call that I realized I wanted to become a product manager. Oh, I'm seeing that there's a small typo. I'm sorry for this. I'm going to correct this later when I change the slides. But Zalando became very big, and there was at this point no chance to be like a product manager right away. So I decided maybe it's easier to work in a small startup, and I will have the chance to learn more things much faster. So eventually, 2019, I switched into a fairly small startup, but also established startup, which is called Karubi, and they were working on online services for booking car repairs. So that sounds like a very profitable idea, but unfortunately, the pandemic also killed this company very quickly, half a year after I joined. So this was an interesting ride, but I learned a lot there in my first position as product manager, and I had quite a lot of insights into UX design and user stories and all of that stuff that product managers do. And yeah, so after leaving Karui, unfortunately, I had to look around again, and now I'm since a couple of months joined with an online e-commerce marketplace, which is selling furniture here in Germany, and they also have like one market open in France. Yeah, but before I did this, I came into contact when I was looking for a job still with my old colleague Anamika, Dr. Anamika Datta and Healthfax, and she introduced me. And I joined this because I had more chance to be learning much more stuff as a product manager, and I also had a chance to work on a product from the ground up, so like building it from scratch. And that was very interesting and intriguing to me. So I joined there in parallel, and right now I'm doing both things a little bit in parallel. And with Healthfax, I want to create this completely new product to help digitize the healthcare system. So now I talked much more about me than I wanted. I am sorry for that. So let's go to the definitions part then. So the Internet of Medical Things, IoT, sorry, is obviously based on Internet of Things, which is IoT. So very much of a buzzword, and actually it's been much longer around than I thought it would be. It's been coined, the term was coined in 1999 by this man, a very intense-looking British technology pioneer, Dr. I don't know, I don't think he's a doctor. He's Kevin Ashton, and he's also one co-creator or was involved in the creation of the technology which is called RFID. It's like a near-field radio transmission technology, which most of you maybe know from using some service like Apple Pay or Google Pay. It's a small chip that allows your phone to communicate via the payment app and transfer your payment data. So he came up with this idea, but what does it mean? So it describes the interconnection of over the internet of computing devices or small devices that have something embedded that is able to compute some data, and just everyday objects. Could be any kind of objects. Could be just like a water bottle, or I don't know. What could it else be? Like maybe your card at the shopping mall. And then enabling these devices to send and receive data independently from any human interaction with each other. So I broke this down a little bit more on this slide. Maybe it makes it more clear how it functions. So the idea is to build up a network between such devices which exchange information and data between themselves independently of human interaction. It's called machine-to-machine communication. And what is also a very important aspect here is that it happens over the IP address network, which is the number that you see here. I think I can even paint this for you here. And yeah, the devices are still accessible, but that means because they are on the internet, that they are accessible via the internet. So the human needs to have like an internet device to access these other devices which are talking to each other. The human's role or the user's role in these technology is pretty interesting because they are still responsible for controlling these smart objects, as they are called. But the influence is fairly limited. Like the idea is really that they work it out between themselves, whatever their function is. And yeah, the independent acting of these devices is another really relevant aspect here. They have also like small algorithms integrated that they can adapt a little bit to whatever situation comes up to them or whatever scenario. But these scenarios for now are mostly predefined. It could be like something simple like an Internet of Things thermometer could realize on your balcony that the temperature is getting too low and maybe it's connected or attached to your plants, and then it's warning you with like some lamp in your room that you need to save your plants because it's freezing them outside. So this is the basic functionality. Why was this integrated? This is quite interesting. So the concept behind this is that people wanted to slowly and completely cross-connect what is in the real world with the virtual world, the internet world, basically the virtual data world. And also one goal is that like almost all real objects will become part of this and then be able to share the information with each other. Like what state is this thing in? It could be any kind of device. There's a very simple example also, like very understandable, I believe. It's called a smart refrigerator, or like a refrigerator with some technology involved here. And the example would be that the refrigerator checks on the amount of foods in your fridge, and if it hits certain thresholds, like, I don't know, you say like, I always want to have 2 liters of soda in my fridge, and if the fridge realizes then through its sensors, something I'm going to talk in a minute, that there might be too little soda because you used it, then it will give you a warning or will automatically put it on your shopping list. There's also, maybe more interestingly, even actually a lot of like industrial purposes behind this. So the idea would be like to kind of surveil the status and the state of every object that you use in your industrial production or facility, and then therefore like improve how the industrial production process uses these devices, because then they can be warned, maybe also with some learning involved, they can be warned early about any kind of problems with any device in the industrial chain or process, and if they are needing maybe some maintenance soon. So like the idea, for example, would be pretty helpful, like say, can I come up with a good example? Like you run a gas station and you have like a smart gas pump, then the gas tank is about to break, but the sensor in the gas pump would already know that this will happen because it doesn't work as good as it worked before. By the way, if there are questions for anything in between, you can also always ask them, but also it's possible later. So next segment. This is about the medical part. Now we are coming from IoT to IOMT. How can this be used in medical? So one very common and big example that I found where it will be or could be put to good use is in the field of elderly care. So right now, a lot of elderly care involves a lot of monitoring, watching and controlling and checking either the patients or also their consumptions of food, water, and any kind of medications. In this, it can have very good effects because you can like connect these technology with the patient and bring them together, and it saves you a lot of like trouble and then also like cost in the next step, and it's something I'm going to talk a lot about in the next slides too. But also for the people in elderly care, they can also directly interact with these systems and maybe call for help if they need it. So there could be voice control implemented in some of these devices. If you're hearing impaired and you need like one of these cochlear implants, it can also help you like to understand the system better from this implant. So it can be directly connected to that. And very important is also the part with the falls and seizures. So the system can check if the patient needs some immediate help. The idea behind this, using this in medical and elderly care, is like to basically allow more freedom and higher quality of life for the elderly in that part. But there are other examples too, and that is on the slide here. So yeah, well, it's more a summary slide. I'm sorry. This is just using IoT for any kind of medical and health-related purposes. It's behind IoMT, medical technology, but also using some data collection and research and monitoring. And all of this together is called smart healthcare. Some of you might realize this device here. It's, I believe, called a Fitbit. This is one good example, not even necessarily for like any kind of issue with your body, but maybe just like to monitor your own heart rate or pulse. It's like a wristband that can do that. It's very popular, at least here in Europe. But there are many such devices. Like these devices can range really from like checking your blood pressure, your heart rate, and then there are much more advanced devices which would maybe check your blood sugar or even like some breath capacity. And then they are connected to different other parts like pacemakers, hearing aids. So this can really form a good network of sensors that gives you a full summary of your bodily functions. And again, here, like the general idea behind this is to create like a digitized healthcare system connecting all medical resources and also the healthcare services on the other side. Obviously, there's like a monetary idea behind this too. So already in 2015, the guys from Goldman Sachs, analysts, put a report together where I found this really interesting quote here. That you can save a lot of money by this. I already talked about the elderly care and how people can save time and people like resources, human resources, and checking on the elderly with using such sensors. And the guys from Goldman Sachs estimated that it's a potential of like savings of $300 billion in annual, and increasing then the revenue and decreasing the cost for the healthcare. Another interesting part that I want to mention here real quick, because it's just like another term that might be important in the future. So from going from mobile devices, like any mobile unit or device technology that you can bring around with you, that support the medical follow-up, and then they call this the creation of mHealth, with the goal to collect statistics that can later be analyzed. So in the next part, I want to talk a little bit about the technology behind this. How is this achieved? So there are a lot of devices and technology involved, actually. So another goal for it is, for example, to encourage healthy living. And the pretty common thing that people find already in online or in any kind of e-commerce or commerce location, it could be like a smart scale, like a scale that not only shows you your weight when you step on it, but also senses to your phone, maybe measures your body fat, and then creates kind of a log. And like over time, like maybe after Christmas, a lot of people in Europe eat too much, so they want to check if they actually can lose this weight again in January. And then something like Fitbit would also, as a wearable, act as a wearable heart monitor. To manage the health vitals and also see about recurring medical requirements, like maybe it realizes you have an issue with your heart rate it should be checked. How can this be advanced? How was this advanced? But coming back now to the RFID technology. So there were really a lot of in the last years, there were a lot of advances in kind of plastics and fabrics for clothes. For a minute, it was also quite a big topic in the fashion industry when I was connected with Zalando that we might integrate some technology into the clothes. And this allowed it to become quite low cost, actually ultra low cost, and not even have to reuse any kind of sensors, but then also maybe just build it. If you have a pair of gloves, for example, medical gloves, then you can have a sensor in them seeing, okay, these need to be exchanged, but then the sensor is put so much together with the fabric that you just throw it away because it became so low cost. And there is also use of the RFID technology. So applied, how to apply this? How is this put into application? Well, there's application for clinical laboratory industry. Right now, everywhere in the world, there's a lot of tests taken for the COVID virus and the corona illness, and so this you can think maybe as an example how this is applied currently. So all the patients which got tested, there's a huge database, and we want to count the number of cases, right? Maybe the database also has some name, but that certainly shouldn't be published. But it allows then doctors, planners, and other medical staff, also managers of the pandemic, for example, to have access to this information, make something out of the data, put a diagram together that gives you an insight on how the pandemic is growing in your location, in your country. But it's very important that in general, IOMT systems should be very much patient-centered. So what does that mean? That means basically that you never can forget about the patient where you apply this sensor or this device to. Either they need to use this themselves regularly, so this implies how you're going to design your system and your device, or at least if they don't have direct access and interaction with it, then it's their data, the data of the patients that is used in this whatever you build with it. So you need to make sure that this data is protected. On the other hand, there's also from the other end of it a lot of interest in this. I use this icon here for insurance. So they are very interested in this data. So I personally don't drive a car, so I don't have a car insurance, but I'm just going to use this as an example because I know this is a little bit debatable. Here, if you want to have a car insurance for your car, which is obligatory, then you can get some price discounts if you allow the insurance company to use your driving data. This depends obviously a little bit on how much your car is able to collect such data. But if you are driving better and maybe not such risky in such a risky manner, and also you're always driving yourself, you get a better deal with the insurance company basically. So I'm just reporting this as an example because I believe this is the same concepts here. So when the insurance companies would get access to this collected data from the patient, in that case, the health insurance, companies, they would be able to allow themselves to do better underwriting and create new pricing models and such as I just mentioned them, that they are more personalized in a way. And then they would also use complex algorithms to analyze their field of customers, maybe offer them better services if they realize all of our customers are actually smokers or the majority, so maybe we want to offer them a service for getting rid of smoking, for example. back to the hardware technology about it. So I mentioned sensors quite a few times already. And this is just an example picture how these sensors can look like. And they can just be like implemented in any kind of device or piece of fabric or clothing. And here's some examples, like a heart rate sensors can already, what can this sense, what can this detect? It can find signs of fibrillation, and then accelerometer sensors can detect the faults, and then also directly send the alarms to the necessary authorities, or some doctors maybe call an ambulance for you. But yeah, there are many other options you can think about, especially like long-lasting diseases like diabetics or epileptic persons can benefit greatly from this, because sometimes they have symptoms, but they can't really feel or sense the symptoms themselves, but the sensor might be able to do so, and then the systems can already help them in an early stage, protecting them eventually for something more severe, like maybe hitting their head when they fall. And also, like for diabetics, I find this like pretty sci-fi technology, that there are now contact lenses which are able to determine your blood sugar levels. But that's where the future is heading to. This is very interesting. If we don't think directly about the sensors on the patient, but more like on the equipment, which is the hospital medical equipment, for example, then this also has quite some benefits. Imagine like a big operational hospital with like many wings and thousands of rooms, and they want to always know like what's the state of their equipment and where is it located. Is the bed empty? So instead, maybe you have quite a full hospital, and instead of like first taking a lot of time to look for a free bed, there might be a sensor on the bed already telling you that in room number X there will be a free bed for this person. And if you have like maybe like a breathing machine, a ventilator, for example, then other sensors can also tell maybe when it's to break down and when it needs a service in time before the actual breakdown happens. So this saves a lot of expenses on repairs, for example, and time. Another aspect of application is something which we call also in health practice digital patient file, because that's connected to us and our purpose, and I'm going to talk about later why this is. So over time, you want to use the system maybe to create a complete digital file about the patient or any type of person with their vitals collected over time, and seeing, oh, maybe there's like some decline here. But this data is super sensible, right? We don't want to share our sensible vital signs with like the internet, for example, in general. On the other hand, we also want to get some control about this. So this is like very important that if we build such system, that we take into consideration to keep it, to build the trust with whoever data is collected there. So there's an initiative in Germany that I just learned about for this presentation. Like we already have like since many years like plastic cards where we always check in with the doctor when we go to a doctor. The plastic cards are basically just having very basic data on it, and they are issued by the insurance. But now there's the initiative to get us, the patients, the public, to get access to our own data, which is saved in this system. And I find this a very interesting and very, trust building initiative. So far, like we didn't really know what was on this card. Only the doctors had the devices to read what was on it. But now they are building some interface, apparently, hopefully still for this year. Everything in Germany takes very long, so I don't trust the 2021 here. But it would be cool to know what they know about me and my vital signs, what they have on these plastic cards. And then there are other apps created for accessing this personal health data. which is like electronic health records in general. But with these apps, they can also integrate like kind of like personal electronic assistants, maybe kind of like a Siri from Apple, which would in a specific app then remind you that you should take your heart pulse when you are about to forget it. Yeah, and then this is like very important, obviously, right now. Like it's been talking about that the COVID vaccine will not maybe keep you immunized for a very long time, forever, but maybe just a couple of months or maybe a year or two. That's not very finalized data yet, but they are pretty sure that maybe if the sickness is not eradicated or the virus is not eradicated, then there might be the necessary of a top-up vaccination. So such apps can then also remind you of that your vaccinations are coming up, not only for COVID, but also for all kinds of ones that need like a top-up every couple of months or years. On the other hand, especially in established markets like where I'm from, the German market is a very good example for this. It's even an outlier in Europe in this regard. People, maybe also with the age group that they're in, this has a lot to do with this, I believe, have a strong lack of acceptance and confidence in such technology. So this needs a lot of like convincing and being open about what you do with this data, so that you eventually get them to be convinced that this is not just like ripping you off of your data or like selling the data off, or that it's just completely unnecessary. So the security aspect of it is something that should be remembered and is very important. So I think a lot of people, like in such markets as the German one, wouldn't like to see it that insurance companies can access all of my vital signs that I don't want to give to them. So this is very important to remember. I found two interesting projects that I wanted to present real quick. I believe I need to hurry probably a little bit with my slides here. We are in the last third, I would say. So I'm just going to mention these real quick. The company MediSanté has already developed and deployed some remote patient monitoring. And yeah, this is continuous monitoring. They do this with healthcare applications, and they also monitor battery life of devices. And yeah, this allows them and the patients and their doctors to have like a real-time view of their health and their activities. The other company, the other project I want to mention is the company Medtronic. I found this also quite interesting. They developed connected pacemakers, also heart pacemakers, which are connected to some other elements in the like other devices in the IoT devices. So they would implant either in the chest or in the abdomen a small device, which would collect data and like about your pacemaker, for example, like the battery life of it. Obviously, you want to reload your battery so your pacemaker still is working correctly and you'll not have your heart stop beating. And then also like tracks some vital signs and activities. And I don't know how far they are already with this heart muscle stimulation, but I find this also like very interesting in this context, that they can already like kind of like externally analyze this data and then maybe stimulate the heart muscle if there are like some problems to bring this rhythm back to normal. I mean, we already have these stimulations, I think, but not as a connected device. So this is quite an interesting technology project. So maybe another slide I can be quick about it. This is other applications. We already talked about the wearables a lot. So in hospitals, for example, they can get like a special medical hospital version of the Fitbit, and they can give it to you, put it on your arm or any other part of the body where it's best applied, and then allows you maybe to monitor you after an operation much better than if they don't have this done, and they have like the comparable monitoring than to when they would have you stay in the hospital. Then that meaning reducing hospital stay time, which from other studies that I found is already helping also like recovering from any kind of like hospital procedure, that usually people recover much better at home than they do in the hospital for several reasons. What you see on the picture here is referring to the smart hospital bed. So meaning that like instead of just like a normal bed where you can maybe like raise it a little bit mechanically, that you have like some electronics involved in this bed. Like one thing I could think about, if you have like a fresh wound, this bed could like measure like moisture or humidity. If like maybe the stitches are still intact and maybe you're bleeding or something, that would be then an interesting part. Or just heart rate, for example, is already helping. They don't need an external device next to the bed, but already it's integrated in the mattress. So this is a good example of such a device. And then obviously sharing this data with the central checking system of the nurse. Yeah, and then for some critical equipment like ventilators, as I already said, making sure that they don't break down, especially not if they are currently in use. And if that would happen, obviously, that could mean the difference between the life of the death of the patients is the last ventilator, which is currently available. Like right now, the pandemic is really much raging in Portugal, and they already have this problem very, very hard. And also, I believe in England or Great Britain in general, UK, that could help if you have such devices, then that you know at least if you're short on them, that you know at least that you might want to reorder one in time before it's actually needed on the patient. Another slide about some concerns regarding this technology of Internet of Things and medical devices. So like with everything connected over the internet, it obviously is a good target for hackers, and it's a very critical target for hackers. So not only could hackers access your health data, which is maybe for like a lot of people not such a great threat, but if you're like a famous person or like a politician or a manager, and somebody hacks your health data and you see, oh, maybe this person has a permanent sickness, then this could be very threatening to this person and the ability to continue with their work. And even more worse would be like if the pacemaker is hacked, for example, and they kind of like tap into your heart rhythm, which you obviously don't want, because this could mean your death by hacking. And yeah, that just tells us we need to be very aware about the safety measures putting into the systems and also the quality that it requires, because with all of these systems, absolutely safely can never be guaranteed. So we need to make sure that the safety is still high enough. And in the end, it's about two sides of it, putting like the value of the life of the patients, like not risking their lives, versus outweighing a safer life because we have this monitoring in place. And yeah, like deciding if we outweigh the risks of the hacking and the technology and the data with the benefits of it. Okay, so this was about the technology and the applications. Let's talk some business now. I put together some slides with business facts, why this is an interesting market for you as I believe you are business students, right? So I believe that should be quite interesting to you. I found another study which said from 2008, the study said that like much more than majority, more than 70% of such IoT projects in general were stuck in pilot or prototype. And why is this? They realized that they found all of these projects had a lack of business planning. So as said here on the slide, we need to find a good connection, or what I'm trying to say with the slide is we need to find a good connection between the business case and the technology that is applied. Just because there's a technology innovation, like all of these sensors, for example, that I was talking about, we need to connect them to valuable business models and business cases. And it doesn't make sense to just build something because there's a cool technology if you don't have the business case behind it. So this should be a lot of potential to tap into if you want to pursue a career in the field where the business side help is definitely needed. And one aspect in IoT projects in general was also realized from the study. They have quite a long timeline in general. And they are missing often skilled resources, and they run into security or legal issues, something that I talked about already, like with the hacking or like the regulations that maybe some countries have very strict data collection regulations. So there need to be in the project some processes designed that make sure that you address these issues and maybe create new project processes and that are correct for this type of like new technology. So there's a lot of potential in the business side to work on this. I found also that there was like some specific management techniques required for working with IoT projects, and that is making sure that you split research and development phase from each other and not mix them with each other. Then have a prototype and a proof of concept before you do the actual project. This is actually pretty similar from any kind of like web IT projects that I've been working on. We always call this like the minimum viable product, which can be also considered as like a test balloon to see if you have actually a business case for whatever you want to build. And then they found also like as a recommendation that it helps if you have interdisciplinary technical knowledge from like the project manager side. Something I always experienced in my career also, that certainly helps to have like many different voices in the room and people think of different concerns if they are from different backgrounds. And then define a jargon, like a matter of speech in a way, like a library of words in your project on how you want to talk about these things between business and technical sides. So this is maybe also if any one of you wants to become a product manager, it's pretty much the definition of the role is to connect these two sides and be a little bit of a translator. It's not all about it being a product manager, but it's certainly a very big part about it. So how much of a market do we expect to be this actually? So Gartner, also an analytics house, very famous and big, did a study that they found like they expect 20 billion connected medical devices in technology, which they call Hospital 4.0. I guess it's a bit of a buzzword behind that. And this for 2020 already. Another buzzword they use here is the smart city, which means like, for example, connecting public elements in the city like a traffic light with each other, right? Smart home is another buzzword where they have like, where you can, for example, control your heating or your lights in the house with your smartphone app. That's called a smart home. And yeah, for these medical devices, they estimated that they will be used in all of these contexts. And then another business house, Deloitte, research house, analytics house, they did a growth study for this for the years between 2017 and 2022. And as you can see, for all of these markets here, there's like huge ways in how much growth there will be between these years. So it's obviously not too late yet. You can certainly either just invest into it, or maybe there's a lot of like demand if you want to put your career into it. I think this is a much growing field where you can have a lot of fun. So I'm on the final stretch here with my slides. I have one more general outlook. So IoT solutions spending from 2017 to 2025 is another source here. See, just proving the point, there's so much growth in it. There will be a lot of people needed. There will be a lot of money going into this. So it's a great opportunity, I think, either just actively or maybe just passively working on this technology. And then I'm wrapping it up with how is this connected to my company, to HealthPacks. So HealthPacks is what they are doing is basically they are building an appointment system for doctors. And in this, where we are about to launch this very soon, I can't tell you when yet. I guess that's a bit of a secret. We have certain aspects where we connect to this technology, meaning we also think about how much data we want to track from our patients that we have in our system. So doctors collect data about their patients and put it into our system, which we call here our patient system. That includes like at the least minimum what time were they visiting, what date they were visiting, but also like what medication do they need for what sickness, and possibly even like maybe a complete list for vital signs. So as I mentioned before, the security of the patient data, we are very much aware that we need to make sure that we protect this really well. Then the patient side can also create some data tracking. Like we could think about that such a doctor in our system would use the device and give it to the patients for use at home, like to monitor heart rate or something like that. And then that could potentially flow back into our HealthPractice system, such data collection. Medication tracking. Then this is certainly something that the doctors would put in the medications they gave to the patients, very sensible information too. And that would end up in our system. We need to take care of it, how we save it, how we display it. Then health signals. We haven't really like active and doing health signal tracking. We haven't really implemented or planned this yet, but it's certainly possible, and it's an interesting prospect for us to think about how we can apply this. If like any small doctor has like a small clinic attached to his practice, then they can collect this data, and maybe it's interesting to our systems too. But in general, our purpose with our project is just like to connect the doctors with the patients, like through our system, using our systems, booking appointments, and also listing their visits. And using this MOIT technology, there's this exchange built. Like we can consider our platform also part of MOIT if you want. And what it generates is then like more data about the patients and more insights. Like if it's a very large clinic, several doctors are running, then maybe they specialize in like some heart issues because of a lot of their patients have already heart issues in general. But that's just an example. It could be anything. And very last slide here, finishing up. We'd be happy to have like any one of you if you want to be interested and like take a step into either Internet of Medical Things, healthcare in general, but specifically our company HealthPractice, if you want to join and participate. Even though we are based in Berlin, the vast majority of our colleagues, of our participants in the startup are actually working from India, and we are all digital in general, but also right now especially because we have like these lockdown situations in Europe. So it's easy to join us, like it's all digital, it's like just another online meeting. And I think you can come and join and learn a lot, and I really recommend, like I learned a lot myself in the last months. And we want to grow a lot, and we want to like attract different specialties. Maybe you're a marketing expert, then we certainly need your knowledge. Or maybe you are like a business analyst, and that would also help. Could be anything. Or you are like good in social media communication, then we need all of these because like we really need to grow this project, and we want to launch pretty soon, and we need a lot of people and a lot of effort put into this. So I believe you can get the contact for Ms. Joshna Jain from the organizers here, and we're happy to have you. We are open, and we want to build a success story also with you. and grow a lot, as I said. And yeah, it can be helping you in your CVs. It's like showing that you're already doing studies, invested a lot into like business experience, and this can always help to find like your next best job if you show already some experience in that. And we promise to be quick with your application and check it real quick. You can yeah, just find out about the contact for Ms. Yoshina Yain. Maybe you also get my contact details shared. I'm not quite sure about this. Anyway, I have put the link here on the slides. I can export the slides too and send it to the organizers who share it then. But we're also certainly on LinkedIn. Really freshly, we are now also in Instagram available, but you find us in general on all social media platforms. If you don't get the contact here or from your organizers, you can always write us there. And I thank you very much for your attention. I hope I didn't take too much time. I'm open for questions now.
Yeah, Mr. Martin, thanks a lot. Thanks a lot. Excellent. So, dear students, if you do have any question, please put your question. You can also send it on the message box.
Somebody's raising the hand here, Samiha.
Yes, first of all, thank you so much for such an informative section. So my question to you is like in India, there are a few good private hospitals, I would say. They already have a good system about like related to the digitalization of the health system, like the patient's history or the records or the doctor's appointment and everything. So like that is like I would say it's a bit easy to get into that sector, but what about incorporating IoT with outdated infrastructures? Like there are hospitals and health clinics, smaller clinics like in remote areas. So
Yeah.
like what is the biggest security challenge while facing so yes, that was my question.
What is the biggest security challenge?
Like, what is the biggest security challenge while establishing IOMT in these remote, outdated infrastructures?
Yeah.
And like, there is a lack of standardization issues. So, like, how
That's
do you
true.
deal with?
Thank you for the question. It's very good. Actually, that's a topic we thought about ourselves for our project too a lot, because we realized like the big tier 1 cities, as we call them, like I guess Delhi is one famous one, and the big hospital organizations, they have maybe already systems in place which are properly protected. And because of this, and also because we see a bigger market for us to grow, we are focusing on the so-called tier 2 cities. Now, I don't really know a good example of such a city, but I think you know what I mean. Like that tier system, you have tier 1, tier 2, and tier 3 cities, which then are on the last tier 3 are then maybe very rural, very remote clinics. So we're focusing with health packs on tier 2, and some aspects that we've been thinking about is in regard to this is that what technology are these doctors actually using? And we found like it's very important to support a mobile application in a way, probably as a web page only for starters, and maybe later as an app, because a lot of these clinics and doctors will maybe, if they have a lot of technology going or not a lot of technology going, but certainly they will always have a mobile phone. It's like the baseline that we are talking about. And this is, yeah, kind of dangerous to protect. But as a web application, we are protecting this with account management and like encrypted connection, right? So web applications per se are technology limited in that way. Other than apps, apps have much more access to such data, but still it's like over the air. So we need to make sure this can't be hacked. And then the other part of this is like the receptionist, which will also work a lot with our potential system. Like maybe they have a very outdated maybe even hacked Windows installation of like Windows 97 or whatever. Hopefully not, but we need to make sure that they are like aware of these security issues and then potentially update their system. Because if you have an updated system, it's not so difficult to protect it in a way that you can't really attack much of a web page. But if you have a very outdated system, that might be a critical part. On the mobile part, people usually renew their phones at least every couple of years once the battery is dying. But yeah, that's something we need to take care of. It could also be just with identification measures. Maybe we'll have limited access to the system with like something like fingerprint sensors. That's not still completely decided yet, but we're on the way and really aware of those issues.
Okay, thank you so much.
Yeah, very useful. And any other question, please? Yeah, Mr. Karan Chopra. He is saying, Mr. Martin, Mr. Karan Chopra, he has written, sir, if the services and products are to be launched worldwide, will there be support for local native languages in apps or devices?
For health packs, so far we are not really looking at worldwide launch. So we're focusing on India market because that's certainly big enough. There's certainly way too many aspects that we need to tackle first before we can think about worldwide. And every market, every country can have its own specifics and regulations. So first of all, we're looking at India and support for local languages. We are aware of that too. And for start, we will certainly, besides English, support Hindi language and maybe then look also like what would be a third language to support. But these two are to start with.
Oh, great. So guys, if you do have any more question, please raise your hand or you just write your question. Any more questions? No. Okay.
Thank you.
So Dr. Monica Saxena, she is heading the institution AICISM, that is Amity Institute of Competitive Intelligence and Strategic Management, and all the students are from the AICISM and they have learned a lot from your side. So I would like to request Dr. Monica Saxena, and I would like to invite her to this platform to propose the vote of thanks to you.
Very good evening.
Monica ma'am, please.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mr. Arya. Very good evening, Mr. Martin. It was a pleasure hearing you, and I heard you throughout the session. It was quite captivating, and I'm sure the use of IoT in the health sector is integrated to such an extent that none of us can exclude ourselves from that part. So even if we just a simple app of health app, if we install, so I could see that various things like consultations and all come up with the integration of artificial intelligence and IoT. They can tell you your heartbeat, your rate, your all these things. So basically now, yeah, so it was quite, and the market, which it was quite surprising to see throughout the world that the market which you mentioned for these kind of services is growing at such a fast pace, more than 5 times in Asia, if I'm not wrong, more than 5 times in Asian countries, and in India specifically from 11 billion to 55 billion, I suppose that was the. So it was quite enlightening, and I would really thank you for enlightening our students and for making yourself available.
It was a pleasure.
It was a great pleasure for us. And we would in future also we would want you to have a certain kind of association with your company and you, so that we can move ahead and we can do our work. Our students can also be involved in internships or certain kind of projects, so they would also get a chance. Thank you so much, Mr. Martin.
It was a pleasure for me. Thanks for having me, and thanks for giving the chance to represent this insight and also like the details about the HealthPlex company. It was a pleasure, really.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr.
On
Martin.
behalf
Thank
of
you.
AICISM, Mr. Arya Kumar Vikramaditya, all our faculty members and students, I thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Yeah.
So guys, you can leave now.